My name is Rebecca Morgan, and I've lived most of my life believing I could keep my heart under control. I believed that once you crossed a certain age, once you carried the weight of responsibilities, once you had already been broken by love before, you couldn't possibly lose yourself to forbidden feelings again. But I was wrong. This is my confession, and it begins with loneliness. I married young, too young, to a man named David Morgan. We had a whirlwind romance in our 20s, and for a while, it felt like the kind of love people write novels about. But reality has a way of turning fireworks into ashes. By the time I turned 35, our marriage was crumbling under lies, money problems, and his wandering eyes. David left not long after, choosing another woman over me, leaving me with bills stacked high and a heart that felt like it had been crushed under a truck. For a long time, I told myself I was fine. I worked 2 jobs, kept my head down, and told my friends I was too busy for dating. I smiled when they asked if I was lonely. I laughed when they teased me about being single. But the truth? I went to bed each night with a pillow clutched against my chest, wishing it was someone's arms instead. Life carried on in that quiet, heavy way until the day Ethan Turner entered it. Ethan was 21, the son of an old friend of mine. His mother had passed away unexpectedly, and he didn't have anywhere stable to go. Out of compassion and maybe a little bit of instinct, I offered him the spare room in my small apartment. It was supposed to be temporary just until he found his feet. But life has a way of turning temporary into permanent, and sometimes into something much more complicated. Ethan was tall, with sandy blonde hair and blue eyes that seemed to notice everything. He was polite, respectful, and worked hard at the local auto shop while attending night classes. But what struck me most about him wasn't his looks, it was the way he treated me. He asked how my day was, he helped with groceries without being asked, and he listened when I talked, really listened in a way no man had in years. At first, I thought nothing of it. He was just being kind, I told myself. But kindness is dangerous when you're starved for affection. It seeps into the cracks of your loneliness until it feels like sunlight after years of rain. It began innocently enough. Long conversations over late dinners. Sharing old movies together on the worn-out couch. Laughing at small things, trading stories about our lives, confiding in each other. One rainy evening, when thunder shook the windows, I admitted to him that I hadn't been touched in years. My voice broke when I said it, my face turning away in shame. I thought he would laugh or change the subject. But instead, Ethan's voice was gentle when he said, "You deserve more than that, Rebecca. You deserve to be loved." Those words undid me. No one had said them to me in so long that I almost forgot what it felt like. Tears slid down my face before I could stop them, and when I did, he reached out and brushed them away. His hand lingered on my cheek, and in that moment, something shifted between us. I should have pulled back. I should have ended it there. But instead, I froze, caught in the warmth of his touch, the sincerity in his eyes. My heart raced, and for the first time in years, I felt alive. That night, he stayed with me. We didn't speak about what was happening. We didn't dare name it. But he stayed by my side for hours, holding me as though I was the most fragile, precious thing in the world. The storm outside raged on. But inside, for the first time, I felt safe. His presence was like an anchor pulling me back from years of drifting. From then on, we became something we never admitted aloud. We weren't mother and son. We weren't bound by anything but circumstance and a loneliness that connected us. But we were something more than roommates. Something more than friends. Our moments together grew longer, sweeter, more dangerous. A hand brushing mine at the dinner table. A glance that lingered too long. Nights when we sat too close on the couch, our shoulders pressed together, silence stretching between us like a secret. I tried to convince myself it wasn't wrong, that I was just imagining the sparks. But my heart knew better. Every time he smiled at me, every time he asked if I was okay, I fell deeper into a place I couldn't escape. The forbidden nature of it only made it stronger. I knew people wouldn't understand. I knew they would call me names, accuse me of betrayal, shame me for crossing lines. But what do you do when the only person who makes you feel alive again is the one person you shouldn't fall for? I remember one night in particular. It was late, past midnight, and I couldn't sleep. I wandered into the living room, where Ethan was still awake, reading a book. He looked up and smiled, and I felt my knees weaken just from that smile. He set the book down and said softly, "You can't sleep again?" I shook my head, embarrassed. He stood, crossed the room, and without another word, he wrapped his arms around me. I melted into him, every ounce of tension leaving my body. I realized then that sometimes love doesn't ask for permission. It just happens. He stayed with me that night too. For hours, we held each other, whispered about dreams and fears, and for once, I didn't feel like a broken, abandoned woman. I felt wanted. I felt cherished. But with every night that passed, the guilt grew heavier. I would wake in the morning, look at his face, and wonder how much longer we could hide this from the world. I would sit at work, serving coffee to strangers, while my mind replayed the way his hand felt in mine, the way he looked at me like I was the only woman alive. We never spoke about the future. We never dared. It was too complicated, too messy, too forbidden. But in those hours we shared, it felt real. It felt like love, even if it was the kind that couldn't last. Eventually, Ethan moved out. He said it was time, that he needed his own place, his own space. I smiled and told him I understood, but inside, I felt my heart shatter. We promised to stay in touch, and we did, but it was never the same. The distance grew, and the hours we once spent together turned into memories I replay when the nights are too quiet. Years later, I still think about him, about the way he made me laugh, the way he listened, the way he stayed with me for hours when I needed it most. I know the world would never understand. I know people would call it wrong. But to me, it was love. Forbidden, fleeting, but love nonetheless. And that is my confession. The story of the forbidden romance that kept me alive when I thought I would drown in loneliness. The story of the nights when he stayed with me, and for a few stolen hours, made me feel like I mattered again.